All right, today we're diving into one of the most epic and dramatic stories ever told, the Great Flood, right from Genesis chapter 7. This is a massive tale of judgment, of survival, and of a world literally being washed clean. So let's get right into it.
So, how does this whole thing kick off? Well, it starts with a very direct command from God to a man named Noah. And right out of the gate, we get the why. See, this wasn't some random lottery. Noah was chosen for one very specific reason. He was righteous. In a world that was seen as corrupt, that one quality made him stand out. And it's the bedrock for this entire incredible story.
So before a single drop of rain falls, the story zooms in on this super detailed set of instructions. This isn't just about the disaster itself. It's a story of incredible preparation and, honestly, unwavering faith in the face of a command that must have sounded absolutely insane.
And the instructions he gets, they are so specific. Noah has to gather 7 pairs of every clean animal, but only 1 pair of unclean animals, plus 7 pairs of birds. You know, this distinction is really important. It wasn't just about repopulating the earth, but also likely for things like sacrifices and food later on. It was all about making sure they had exactly the right resources to restart the world.
And here we get the bombshell. The terrifying reason for all this prep work. A deadline is set, just 7 days. After that, a cataclysm is coming. One that will last 40 days and 40 nights, and its purpose is, in the stark words of the text, to blot out every living thing. I mean, the stakes just could not be any higher.
So what does Noah do? Faced with this monumental, almost impossible task, and a prophecy of total global destruction, his reaction is boiled down to this simple, powerful statement. He just does it. The text makes it crystal clear he did everything the Lord commanded him to do. No questions, just obedience.
Okay, so the preparations are finally complete. Now the story shifts into its next big phase. We're about to witness the literal final moments of the old world as the chosen few climb aboard the ark, their one and only shot at survival.
And just to give you a sense of the epic time frame we're dealing with, the text points out Noah's age. He was 600 years old when the flood waters came. This detail just elevates the story, right? It puts it on an almost geological, mythological scale, way beyond a normal human lifetime.
So who exactly were the passengers on this vessel? Well, it was a tiny group of just 8 human souls. Noah and his wife, their 3 sons, and their sons' wives. And they were joined, of course, by this incredible collection of animals, basically the last living remnants of life on land, all gathered together to repopulate a new world.
This line, wow, this is one of the most powerful and final moments in the whole chapter. After everyone is on board, Noah doesn't shut the door himself. It's shut from the outside by God. This is such a brilliant way to show that this is the point of no return. The time for choosing a side is over. The judgment is now sealed.
And just like that, the countdown ends. Those 7 days of waiting are over, and the cataclysm that was promised, well, it's finally unleashed on the world.
Can you even imagine it? Being sealed inside this massive wooden ship with the whole world of animals just waiting. Waiting in the quiet for a whole week, knowing that a world-ending storm is about to hit. That timeline just emphasizes how tense and nerve-wracking that final week must have been.
Now, the description of the flood itself is just fascinating. This was not just a lot of rain. The text describes a cataclysm on 2 fronts. The springs of the great deep bursting forth from below the earth, while at the same time the windows of heaven opened up from above. It's like the world was being uncreated, flooded from both the ground up and the sky down.
The focus now shifts to the sheer, overwhelming, unstoppable power of the floodwaters. This wasn't some local event. We're talking about a global flood that consumed absolutely everything.
For 40 days and 40 nights, the downpour was relentless. It was a constant, unbroken storm that saw the waters just rise and rise and rise until they had covered every single inch of the known world. And this detail, this is just staggering to think about. The water didn't just fill up the valleys. It completely submerged the entire global landscape. Every high mountain under the whole sky was covered. There was no high ground. There was nowhere left to run.
As if that wasn't enough, the text gives us this unbelievably specific measurement. It says the waters rose more than 7 meters, that's about 23 feet, above the peaks of the highest mountains. That little detail isn't just for scale, it's there to hammer home the point. This was total. There was absolutely no escape.
The consequences are laid out in the most stark, direct terms you can imagine. It wasn't just some life, it was everything. Birds, livestock, wild animals, all of humanity. The summary is absolute. Every single creature on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died.
And one of the final verses in this section gives us this devastating one-word summary: wiped out. It's a statement of absolute, profound finality. There is zero room for doubt.
But in the middle of all that total destruction, there was one single point of life remaining. So now let's turn to the fate of the Ark and its passengers, just floating alone above a silent, drowned world.
The text is super clear on this point. The destruction was complete, but with one major exception. Only Noah and everyone and everything with him inside that ark were left. They were the only survivors of humanity and the entire animal kingdom. That's it.
And here's a detail that often gets overlooked. Yeah, the rain lasted for 40 days, but the water stayed on the earth for a total of 150 days. This wasn't a short-term crisis. This was 5 months of floating over a silent, lifeless planet before the waters even started to go down.
And that's pretty much where this chapter leaves us. After 150 days floating on top of a dead world, the handful of survivors are now facing a silent, empty planet. So the question we're left with is simple, but it's immense. What happens next? How do you even begin a new world from scratch?